Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Midnite Spotlight, the home of some dudes who got thoughts on movies. My name is Cole.
You know who the fuck I am.
Damn. And I'm Mike
Yeah,
Harley.
Sorry, that's a little.
That's Big Los right there.
Yeah.
Big Los. And
Sorry, that was a bit. That was a bit aggressive.
No,
We're in the Christmas spirit, guys. Where's your
we
guys'
are.
Christmas spirit?
Look,
Yeah.
it's winter. It's winter. We're
winter.
here. You know,
It's
we
getting
had
chilly.
to get at least one.
Gotta
There
get the
had to be at
festivities.
least one Christmas-themed horror movie on this list. And after we
Can't get away
celebrated the other holiday with Thanksgiving, we had to do it. Quite frankly, we had no choice. Dalton and I at least had no choice because Carlos held us
had
at gunpoint.
Yep.
Yeah, he was also, his zipper was down. But that's besides
What?
the point. This is directed by Michael Dougherty, who did Trick or Treat, which has become a certified Halloween classic throughout the years. And I
he
guess
did
this one... Yeah, go
Godzilla
ahead.
King of the Monsters.
Oh,
Godzilla
great,
King of the Monsters.
Great movie.
Certified
Best
Godzilla
movie.
classic.
Best movie to come out of the MonsterVerse. I can tell you that.
A certified Mothra classic, as someone would say.
Rest in peace,
No
Mothra.
comment.
But he directed Trick or Treat, and I feel like this movie has kind of garnered a cult classic status itself. I know when it came out, it kind
Somewhat.
of put the idea of Krampus on a lot of people's radars. I know, at least for myself, I was like, the hell is that? And then you find out, like, evil Santa. It does kind of pique your interest a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're here. I've seen this before. You've seen this before?
I've never seen it.
Oh.
I've never
Dalton?
seen it either.
Have you seen it?
Well,
This
fuck me, I
is my.
guess. No, I'm kidding.
This is the first time I've seen
So
it. I've
Cole,
only heard
get
of
out.
it, and yeah, only me and Dalton are talking here. No, it's this is the first time I've seen it, but I think I've seen clips of it, or I unfortunately saw the big twist at the very ending because this came out in 2015.
Yeah.
So I think I was just looking up videos on Watch Mojo, top 10 twist most.
They would do that,
were-
though. Twist
and
endings in
It's
horror
top
movies.
10 endings that are worse than you think. There you go.
Yeah, and we're not talking spoilers yet, just to be clear. So don't worry. We'll let y'all know when we do get to that. It's a winter themed horror movie. It opens up on I'm guessing it's supposed to be Black Friday, right? It's basically a big savings event is happening, and it sets the central tone for this movie about how certain people, a lot of people, tend to go feral during the holidays. Quite frankly, they go animalistic. And they just start being bad. They start being bad people.
You lose the spirit of Christmas.
Yeah.
And
And
that's what this is
It's not
all
a
about.
Charlie
Exactly.
Brown Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, this is no Charlie Brown Christmas, mind you. It definitely has moments of being a horror movie. But there is no doubt that, Michael Dougherty's love for the holiday is ever present in this. And, that's something that he did in Trick or Treat, where it was all about the spirit of Halloween. And you could definitely argue that this is about the spirit of Christmas and how that kind of goes throughout the movie. Basically, to give a general synopsis, it just follows a family that is preparing to welcome in a side of the extended family into their home for the holidays, have dinner and whatnot, and to spend time together. And we all know that can not be the most pleasant experience, but that's what this capitalizes on, right? This is showing us that it is not a pleasant experience, and we have a lot of, I guess, caricatures. Is that a good word to use for that? A lot of people who they make sense that they are who they are.
I think I remember seeing that somebody had described it kind of as like a National Lampoon kind of character.
Christmas Vacation.
In that same kind of vein where it's obviously you have the family dynamic
Alone.
and also Home Alone
True.
2, and also the extra uncle and stuff that comes in, or uncle and aunt that are kind of very different from the mom and dad, and they have the differences. Obviously the cousins come from different worlds as well. And I think that's the big conflict that happens, at least towards the first half of the movie, until it really turns into a horror movie that people kind of know it for. This is it's a pretty slow start. It's not too slow where you're uninterested, but I think it's a much slower start. Yeah,
I will have to agree with that. I think like I said, we're not talking spoilers yet. I think if you can levy something against this movie, it does definitely start pretty slow. After like the first 10 minutes, I think it has some pacing issues. And we'll get into that more, I guess, as we go on. But like you said, the back half of this movie is definitely a horror movie. And the first half is kind of more what you'd expect from a standard Christmas family drama comedy, and it definitely plays by those rules, I think, throughout all of it. But I can say one thing for sure is that, and I would like to know what you guys think about this, was this as much of a horror movie as you expected it to be going in?
No. That's all I'll say.
I get thank you.
It is a bit like in the way that they have horror elements to it, but it's very much a PG-13 movie that I felt would have really benefited from being rated R.
Yeah.
I get why. Obviously, you want to get more people in. Michael Dougherty is, I think, they obviously recognize he's a good filmmaker, but his movies don't make a lot of money. So they were just, I feel like at this point they're like, all right, let's get as many butts and seats so we can kind of make this a holiday classic. And I think it did work out, at least commercially, but I think the horror of it really suffered. Because I feel like I don't know if he really wanted to do it, because he definitely made the most of what was kind of available to him for PG-13 horror. But it's...
The reason why I said no is because it really reminded me of like one of those kids movies that are like monsters running around, like Bridge to Terabithia or like Spiderwick or something.
Interesting.
Yeah,
because I was gonna say I actually watched something that barely got released, and it was on 4K, the naughty cut of this movie, which has like very, very minimal stuff added to it. It's
naughty
mostly character beats. No, not naughty stuff. But it's what's weird about that is because, like you said, it definitely is a PG-13 horror movie, and that comes at the detriment of a lot of horror movies. There's it can make or break a lot of movies, and this one does, I feel, suffer because of its PG-13ness, but that isn't rectified in the naughty cut. There's most PG-13 horror movies that came out in some like the 2000s when that became very popular, they'd get released with like unrated cuts on DVDs. And this really is not like that. But on the positive side of that, and something that you were saying, Trick or Treat, that was a much smaller budgeted movie that Michael Dougherty got to do. But with this, he got something like 15 million. And I think it really shows, like, this is a great looking movie. I think through and through, it looks great. A lot of it's darker than you'd probably expect, like visually darker than you'd probably expect it to be. But I feel like he really utilized that budget to like really sell the locations.
Oh yeah, the sets look fantastic. I mean, for the most part, they usually stay in one set, but I feel like there's two sets they utilize quite a bit. But I think the second set, we'll get into spoilers a little bit later, is pretty great. And I think, like you said, he had money. And he knows how to use a budget. I feel like 15 million is relatively small for
for movie making standards. It is,
But for the scale that this kind of was eventually, not eventually, the scale it was and the scale it looked like at least 2 times what it's worth. And I think that's what I really appreciate about him is he knows how to use that budget to like his advantage and make a great looking movie at the very least. Even though I feel like a lot of that budget again could have gone to what I was hoping for was more of a follow up to Trick or Treat, kind of like in the way that it was fun, it was pretty violent, and there was a lot of almost like it's a little bit violent in the way where it's like, okay, this is fun, this is interesting, like, but this one was like it couldn't really go that far. And I feel like I was just waiting for that to go farther, like to do more with that aspect. But and to kind of like follow up on what Carlos was saying, this movie definitely is inconsistent. I would say that's one thing that I will definitely levy against it, is like probably my biggest criticism, is that it does feel rather inconsistent. And you kind of do wish the deaths were like a little more brutal. There's hardly any blood
in this movie, and it almost feels like it should be bloody. And
I don't think there's any blood at all.
Yeah, well, okay, sorry. The cut I watched had like a little bit of blood, but it's very, very minimal. And yeah, if I'm remembering correctly from the PG-13 version, which is, I watched that one a few years back. The first time I had seen this, it is noticeably lacking the violence that you would expect. Like Trick or Treat, it had its moments where it was definitely violent, not in any kind of crazy way, but within the confines of the movie, it was satisfactory, I guess you could say. Yeah. And even though this movie does have a lot of moments where I feel like the horror aspect of it on screen ends up being very satisfactory, it does kind of leave you wanting more.
I wanted to say something about the budget, where it's like, so I think I'm kind of on the opposite end, thinking that Trick or Treat looked better than this, mostly because I don't know. I feel like having a smaller budget kind of makes you like try to find more creative solutions to stuff, and like I don't know.
Absolutely.
Like here it's just like minion gingerbread man and like just like CGI everywhere. Where it kind of, I feel like if he had a smaller budget, he wouldn't have done. He would have found like different ways to do stuff. But
that's interesting.
I feel like I'm going to be the stick in the mud this podcast because I wasn't really a fan of this one.
That's a good point.
Which is a shame because go ahead.
No, I was go ahead. I'll finish my thought.
I was just going to say it because I really liked Trick or Treat, and I had really high expectations, and I also like Christmas like aesthetic more than Halloween. So I was like, at the first half of the movie, I was like, yeah, this is going to be like I really like this. But then as it went on, I was like,
interesting.
I was looking for that irony, I think, that Trick or Treat had. But I feel like, again, like Dalton expressing that, I feel like the irony could have been used to his advantage. This one's, obviously, when you think of Halloween, it's very much a horror-orientated holiday. You think of Christmas, it's very joyful, but they have a premise that I think could have really worked if they just went as far as they did with Trick or Treat. They don't have to go over the top, but I feel like they could have do so much more with it. But I mean, in turn, it does make for a much more accessible horror movie, which I think that was the idea of this. Kind of like why the nutty cut never really got like too violent, is because this was mostly for young teenagers to kind of get into the movies, and you're not necessarily watching a bad horror movie. There's a lot of great aspects in terms of horror. Like there's some scenes that would freak out. If I was like a 12, 13-year-old, they would freak me out. Yeah. But it just, as like a person who is, like Dalton, expecting another Trick or Treat, you're obviously going to be a little disappointed.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I feel like it would be a great movie to show kids. I think Gremlins kind of has that Christmas horror status for kids, like by the balls. But this would be good.
I kept seeing like, because I read reviews after I watch these movies to see what the general perception is, and everyone was comparing it to like Gremlins, but I don't know.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I see the surface comparison, but not.
Yeah, no.
Really.
When I was comparing it, I meant just more of like the status of like a good horror movie for kids that's also for Christmas, like tonally, and like if you compare them side by side, I would not say they're like on the same level.
Very accessible.
But it's just in the way that it's not very bloody, but you could see why certain things might give a little kid nightmares, then it makes sense. Yeah. Because, man, the practical effects in this movie, like there was one scene where it uses CGI, which honestly didn't bother me at all. And it's like you said, it was for gingerbread men. But other than that, man, I love the practical effects. Like, I think they look so damn good. In this movie, and we'll get into it more for like spoilers specifics. But overall, across the board, even the look of Krampus, it's just like, it's fucking good, man. Like, it's got presence.
He knows how to use it. He knows really very much how to use practical effects. I think better than almost like 99% of movies I've seen. Like, thinking back, you think of movies like with the Alien, the Xenomorph, obviously practically done, looks great. Predator, practically done, looks fantastic. Krampus, I think, is on that level where it looks fucking amazing.
Yeah,
it's practical and it looks great. And I mean,
and there's a lot of detail.
There's another monster that I love the look of, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But
probably the same one that I love too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but there's like so many little details given to Krampus himself. In the first scene that you get to see him in, he's like a shadow on a rooftop that starts running across rooftops.
That was cool.
And yeah, it's like it's pretty fucking cool, right? Like it sells the threat of Krampus in general. And as the movie goes on, it does more and more to kind of deepen the I wanted to say mythology, but it's realistically what Krampus is about. You know, how he is the antithesis to Santa Claus and what he brings as the horror villain, I guess you could say for this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of drama, I guess, within the family. You know, you got some pretty good performances. Toni Collette, she's always great. You know,
it's always great.
Ever since you see Hereditary and go back, it's like she's not going to top that, but she's pretty damn good.
Hey, I was expecting her to scream at the family. You know, it was like, don't talk to me like that. Like, I was like,
people on fire.
That. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Is the characters, I think, are what really surprised me the most in this movie, of how much I actually ended up liking them. It was like, I thought it was just going to go in a way as like, oh, these are going to be generic like characters where it's very much they're going one direction and they're not really going to change, and that's what it'll make it easier for them to be punished. But in this one, they're actually somewhat charismatic and have a little bit of an arc, and they do grow, and they're not super characters where it's like, oh, this guy sucks. It's kind of like, they have some elements you're like, he kind of sucks, but there's some elements you're like, okay, actually enjoy watching them on screen.
And I know who you're talking about. You're talking about David Koechner, who plays like the asshole, who is like
he's surprisingly
he starts
wasn't
off
as
unbearable, but it's like you said, he does end up coming around.
Yeah, I think
a little bit.
The aunt character as well, I think she did a great job with that character. She didn't go over the top, but I think I appreciated how toned down it was to make it a little bit more realistic and a little bit more relatable.
Yeah, she gets a few more moments in the naughty cut too. That's pretty funny, actually. It's pretty good, like the little bits they added of her in there. It's just like this. It's like what you would expect from an aunt. Like if she was an actual aunt, you would expect her to act like that, you know. And I thought that was pretty funny. Adam Scott, I thought he did pretty good. You know, like as the dad, who's, you know, you can tell that there's like a lot of like the family isn't what it's used to be, but he's still a good guy at heart. I think he portrays it well, because it's so easy to make that such a flat character, but I feel like he's charming enough to get across that character pretty well.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a weak performance in this movie. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I feel like everybody played their parts pretty well.
I thought the actors were all pretty good. It's another thing where I'm going to disagree. I hated all the characters. Like there were so many decisions where like, even like where it could be like redeemable, it's like it seemed like they made them make stupid decisions sometimes just to move the plot forward, or like they would. Well, I can't really.
I get exactly what you mean, because a lot of horror movies are guilty of that. Where like, you know, the only reason the plot progresses is because the characters make stupid decisions.
Yeah, and that's why because you're a horror fan and you like all that stuff. I think like you can tolerate it more, but like maybe that's the reason why I don't like a lot of horror, is because of that. And it's just like a genre thing, not like in particular to this movie.
I think this movie was kind of it did that part rather bad. Like it was noticeably bad in this movie of the decisions they made, because I did notice that too. It didn't make the characters. It didn't make me not like the characters. I think it just made the writing a little bit weaker for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's where I see the fault falling under. And of course, you know, I feel like it was to push the plot, and it just makes it a little bit lazier, which it did bring it down the movie a little bit for me. But you know, I feel like that was more towards the ending of it, you know.
It's the same for me.
Again,
yeah.
Spoilers, you know, getting into details, but I mean, it's just that did frustrate me as well, which I'll talk a little bit more about later.
Yeah, and here's the deal, folks. Like, I love Trick or Treat. That's one of my favorite horror movies ever. I could come in here and I was rooting for this. I mean, I've seen it before, so I knew what I was getting into. But even I can't lie. Like, yeah, there's some decisions in this movie that they don't make sense. I will have to personally disagree with what Dalton said, but there's the only reason why I would disagree with that is because by no means could I ever argue against, like, yeah, what these characters did was stupid. It's just that in the ending, it wouldn't matter whether they did what they did or not. It just kind of shows, like, yeah, they're just stupid. But I think, like, that is the characters. Like, they're stupid, you know? And that's, they play into it, too. Like, these guys, they're just, especially David Koechner and his wife.
I get that they're playing into it. It's just, like, I don't want to watch it.
It's
not enjoyable for me.
That's perfectly fine. And, there's nothing I could ever say to take it away from that. There's a lot of cool moments though with the monsters. Great setting. Like I do agree. I like Trick or Treat better. Like the vibes of that movie, I feel like encapsulates Halloween much more. It kind of revels in its being a Halloween themed movie. This one is mostly like a snowed in, confined movie. But I think the way that Doherty shot it made it stand out, which I think that speaks more to his talent than it does to this movie's credit, if that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't say the movie itself, it's not like whoever was doing the set design deserves all the credit. You know, it's like Doherty he knows what he wants to see. And I'm guessing it feels like a movie that was very storyboarded in the same way that Trick or Treat was at points. Trick or Treat feels like all the way through it could be like a comic book. And what you get to see was so thoroughly planned out. I can tell you agree with me, Carlos. Thank you. But
I want to give some positive kudos to this movie because I don't want to be completely negative. Because
Mr. Negative over there.
The sets.
Oh no,
the sets look beautiful. That's what hooked me in for the beginning, and the creature designs and everything. Practical, like amazing, but like that's something that kind of ties into like, have you guys like on the Sci-Fi Channel? They used to have, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have these competition shows of like makeup artists and like costume designers and stuff.
Yeah, I remember.
And like in season finales, they would have to make like a short like 2 to 3 minute movie to show off their creation. That's what this felt like to me, but like extended like so much. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you guys,
about when the
monsters
sense. Actually do come on screen?
Well, yeah, and it just makes it kind of seem like the first half hour, or how long is this movie?
It's like it's realistically like 50 minutes, and I only know that because I paused to like go to the bathroom at some point.
Yeah,
and I was
well,
like,
I'll just say like the first half, like it kind of made it seem like pointless, and it was just like a showcase for all the monsters.
That eventually
detriment
came
to the story and everything. Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, fair enough. Yeah,
I didn't really bother me, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but like there's a point in this movie where it completely shifts gears, and it's the movie that you would almost expect it to be. And that's why I understand where you're coming from, where you're saying like, oh, you were expecting like Trick or Treat but Christmas. And it's definitely not that. It's like
I would have enjoyed it too a lot more because this seems like a good like Trick or Treat short story style kind of thing. Like have the things happen like and then like the ending happen and then move on to like another
segments
Christmas story. Yeah, like it just felt like so stretched out, like just walking down corridors slowly and screaming.
And I think there's a lot of pacing issues myself. I was never hooked until the last half of the movie, like completely hooked.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
If that
I get
part happened earlier, I think I would have been more hooked. But by that time, I was just like wanted to be over.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I feel like if we want to talk about it a little bit more in detail, I think we can. We give a little review on it. I mean, if you're not gonna listen to spoilers, I would recommend this movie. Just take a little watch if you're looking for a Christmas movie. Very accessible, at the very least. It's just very. If you're not into horror, I feel like this would be a good start if you're getting into it. If you get scared pretty easily, I mean, this is not the worst movie to start off with. It is get creepy in some parts, but never like terrifying.
Yeah,
which I think that again that works to its benefit, but it doesn't really sell it for us because we were expecting something a little bit more horrific. But
yeah, I would say definitely check it out. It's not a bad movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie or anything, but
just not for you.
Yeah, it's just not for me. It might not be for you. It might be for you. Who knows? Only one way to find out.
Exactly. And that's okay. You know, like I said, there's a lot of great, I would actually go as far as to say there's some amazing things in this movie, but it is plagued with inconsistencies and it has pacing issues, and I don't even know that it is growing pains on Michael Dougherty's part, moving from a segmented anthology like Trick or Treat was over to a more streamlined, conventional horror movie. But, you know, there's a lot of potential with this. I would recommend checking it out for sure. Like Carlos was saying, it is accessible. I think you could maybe argue at points it's definitely to this movie's detriment that it's so accessible, but it's good. You know, it's fun in points. I feel like it's a movie that you could just put on and like you don't have to worry about family members being like, oh, that's gross or whatever.
Watch this? You watch this?
Yeah, you can show it to like a lot of people, including young kids. So I think it fills out that well. You know, definitely
it's a good family horror.
Yes, it's a good family horror. It's definitely not one of my favorite Christmas horror movies, but it's pretty good.
It's no Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
I knew that shit was coming. Hey. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1, though, that's a great movie. Great slasher. I could go on, but let's go into spoilers. Favorite parts of the movie? It's the Jack in the Box,
obviously.
Right?
Yep.
Jack in the Box looked amazing.
Eating people
that shit was so cool, man.
Looks so good.
Look, in order to give props where it's due, I want to say Michael Dougherty was probably very inspired by the movie The Deadly Spawn. I encourage everybody just to Google it and look at what the monsters in that movie looks like, because it looks like somebody just put a Jack in the Box skin over some of those things, and it looks fantastic. It is monstrous in all the best ways that you would not have expected, especially since it shows up much earlier in the movie and is responsible for the first death. And when I first saw it, you know, I didn't remember that it ended up looking the way it does. So I was like, how the hell is a Jack in the Box going to kill this girl under a truck? Right? But then you find out and it's like, okay, makes sense.
Yeah. And that was the first scene. I think that was like the first horror scene in a long time. Because I feel like they implied like horror, and then kind of like there's one smaller scene with like the snow, and they're trying to look for the daughter, and then it just like that's like the scene where they start with like the house horror, I guess you can call it, because that's when all the monsters kind of get in the house and start taking over and all that shit. But I think it looked phenomenal the way it opened its jaw and just like pushed in the boots. Oh, it looks so good.
Yeah, it was.
I think that was a part that I think was kind of weird. It did make sense by the end why they did it, but I think that's what's going to make it or break it for a lot of people. Is I don't think any of them died. I think they were all transported to their prison because obviously they were swallowed, but that thing grew, so it was big enough to hold them, and you know nobody was seen to actually die. I think they were just being captured.
Yeah. The ending reminded me of because I watch the old Twilight Zones sometimes, and it reminded me of like how half of those end. It's like they're actually small.
It does have
inside something.
It does definitely have that kind of ending, though. You're right, and it's kind of a dark ending, though. You know, you almost expect it. The movie kind of plays it off as a typical Christmas story, how it would end. You know, all's well. You get back to go. You get a second chance. But not in this movie. No, you get the second chance, but it turns out you're fucked. And it's a good way to do that.
Predictable for me because I knew it was going to be like trying to be subversive, like when the little boy was saying to Krampus like the generic like, "I'll trade me for them." I'm like, nah, he's not gonna do that. And then like the same with the ending, like it's not gonna be a happy ending, like because it like the cynical tone is throughout the whole thing, so like it wasn't really surprising at all.
I'm sure that scene was supposed to play out like, or is supposed to subvert the expectations of movies of like Home Alone, where obviously at the end where he was kind of like, take me instead, or he didn't say that, but he was like, I want my family back and all that stuff. But it was supposed to subvert that, which I thought was kind of clever in a way. But you know,
I did too.
I thought it would be like more surprising if it just happened.
Yeah, exactly. But
because the rest of the movie does play kind of like a standard Christmas movie. It plays by those rules up until that point. So for me, I was like, I kind of did expect it the first time I watched it to be like, okay, he gets the second chance, but then no.
Yeah.
The ending though.
I was going to ask you guys, because I was reading, like I said before, I was reading reviews about, and the most like common word I saw describing it was fun. And I saw things that were fun about it, but like the fun things, like getting to it, it's like, was it worth it? I mean, what do you guys think? Like, convince me, because I didn't find anything fun. I was so bored.
Here's the deal. When I said it was plagued with inconsistencies, that's exactly what I mean. When I say it hit a point in the movie where it shifts gears, that's when the monsters start showing up. Right when the monsters start showing up, it feels like a Michael Dougherty movie. Up until that point, it drags, and it's like, I don't know. I would never say that, even though the actors are really good across the board, I would never say that the family drama is ever particularly compelling in any way.
Yeah. I thought it could be compelling if they did something with it. It had
potential, but that's what a lot of this movie comes down to. And, you know, I can never take anything away from when the monsters do show up on screen. Like, it's fantastic. You know, it's like easily steals the show, but it's a different movie. Like, it really does feel like a different movie.
That kind of took the steam away, because, like, by the time the monsters came back, I was like, I don't even care anymore. It looks cool, but, like, everyone's just screaming nonstop, and it's like nothing, I don't know. I don't want to be the. I mean, I'm the negative Nancy in this.
No, it's okay.
Episode. I feel bad because you guys like it so much.
No, I mean, don't feel bad, because like we're all talking about what we felt about it, right? And you're not the only one that thinks that. You know, I was surprised, if anything, to see that so many people love the hell out of this.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I was like, what am I missing?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I get it. You know, I get what they like. It's just that it's so inconsistent that it's hard for me to say, like, as a whole, that this movie is as good as it could be, because it's not. I think at the end of the day, it's just not. But I could, you know, there's some great atmospheric shots in the first half where, especially with like the snowmen, you get to see the little elves with like their beady eyes peeking out through the back. And I won't say that this movie's biggest fault is that it isn't Trick or Treat. Like, I would love it if it was Trick or Treat, just Christmas, but, you know, even within the context of itself, it's just, like I said, in that first half, it's not particularly compelling in any way.
And what you said earlier, you brought up the word potential, and I think that's what frustrates me the most, is because it's coming off of Trick or Treat, and there's all these cool ideas like the snowman, like you mentioned, and like they don't really do that much with it.
Yeah,
or, like, it's
well, I mean,
done
you
in
find
a way...
out later it's the elves that are making them, and like that was pretty cool. But it's like, you could argue at that point it's almost too little, too late. For me, it wasn't, but I get why it was for you. Yeah, because it's like, wow, that's the payoff, and it's, I don't know, I like the design, so I think that's where I came from.
I would have to disagree with you guys on the part of the beginning being. It does drag towards the beginning. I don't think it's compelling, but I really did enjoy the family dynamic that Michael Dougherty created.
Yeah, I
think it wasn't generic in a way. It was, you know, I was expecting, like, again, like, everybody hates each other, everybody kind of sucks, but it was just like
funny.
people just like trying to like get together as a family, and obviously they have their hardships and their you know, but I mean, this kid, like, again, hearing, you know, I thought when they were gonna write down, or when they were gonna kind of say his wish list, they would kind of be like, oh, this kid's just like, he's not growing up, he's too young. And of course, I'm going to get into a little bit more into detail about the Santa Claus not believing in Santa and believing in Santa thing and how they made fun of him for that. But, you know, them treating it like, oh, he's kind of right. Like,
he's a good person deep down.
Yeah. And they're all good people deep down, I think. And he's just kind of bringing out, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, like, especially with like something like the sister. He's like, I just want to spend more time with my sister. I thought it was like, oh, that's a really like genuine,
it's
like wish. That was like, okay, I'm
nice.
very surprised how nice that was. And
it's nice, and it's not something you'd expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminded me of like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, yeah, I agree with you completely. Like, actually, the first, I don't know, third of the movie was my favorite part.
Yeah.
And then like when I watch the rest of the movie, it like makes it seem kind of pointless, and just brings it down for me. Like, and then I'm just like, what was the point of that? Like, all these characters are dying one after another, and like it just doesn't seem like it matters at all. Well, not dying, but, you know.
I think it was like supposed to subvert the expectations, I think, in that aspect, and I think it was definitely hit or miss because, you know, you think of like after this moment for a character, obviously is like, oh, I don't like, you know, fuck Christmas, all that stuff. Usually this would lead to like some kind of Christmas hijink where an elf steals them and they go on this little adventure to like find his Christmas spirit. And it was like, no, this movie is like, all right, you're gonna get punished because all you guys suck. You know, I think that was kind of fun. It would led to the ending, which I didn't find. I found it good. I don't think I found it as good as you guys. There were good aspects to it. Like the monsters look great, but that's why the decisions of the characters just were so dumb. It really took
the
me
ending
out
of that movie. The ending of the movie is like the pinnacle of just nonsense because there's, you know, perfect example. You have Adam Scott's death. He's like trying to buy his family time to get away from this thing that's under the snow that acts almost like a shark or something, right? It's not that it has a fin, but it's under the snow. And he's like shooting at it, but he just kind of stands there and lets himself die. And it's kind of like, you could have done something, you know? And it's the same thing with Toni Collette, actually.
Yep.
I remember actively thinking to myself, because her death is like minutes later, not even 5 minutes after Adam Scott's. It's almost like, I truly felt like she had no reason to die when she did.
It just felt like we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, basically.
And, you know, it's kind of like serves the point of the ending, I guess. It's just kind of lazy in that way. But there's no getting around it. There's like, those deaths are not great. Like the motivations behind it.
And it was weird because I don't like out of nowhere. Like I feel like it just random ass scenes. They use like Hanna-Barbera sound effects. So like when the ant get like swooped out of the window.
That shit was funny though.
I was like, what the fuck?
That made me laugh though. I was like, okay, I didn't expect it, but like that shit was pretty
I didn't
funny.
mind that. Also, I didn't
thought it was. Oh, go ahead.
I was seeing people were pointing out like plot holes and stuff. They're like, why did they kill everyone in the city? I'm like, I don't care. He's like an evil Santa. Like, who cares? That's not a plot hole.
That's what I was wondering too,
Yeah, before we stray too far from it, I do want to say that I really like the point that you made, Carlos, where it feels like it could have been a movie where it's like, oh, they don't believe in Santa Claus, so that's why this is happening. But no, that's not why. It's because it's about, like, actually the spirit of Christmas, and more so than that, just being, like, a good person, you know what I mean? Instead of, like, reveling in the negativity that everybody has. Because this movie is pretty cynical for most of its runtime.
Krampus is going to come get me for my bad review.
Yeah. Krampus is going to come get me for having... You know, I don't even want to say that. We're gonna cut that one. No, I'm kidding. That's not what I was going to say. Well, this is going to stay in anyways, so it looks good to me.
Yeah, it's still going on mine.
Okay.
Cut.
For me, it's at 38.50 right now. Oh,
Same.
there he
Carlos
goes.
I think it is still recording, but his Wi-Fi.
I know. We'll have to see. All right, we're gonna have to save this shit. All right. So now it's just Dalton and I. Carlos decided he had to take a little break because Krampus got him after Carlos said that.
Should we wait for him?
No, we're gonna keep going. If this gets cut out, it gets cut out. But we're gonna ride this shit out. Carlos said that he wanted to hurt Dalton in a way that I cannot say on the podcast, but it was very emotional and it was very intense. So Krampus came and got his ass real quick.
Swooped him out with the hook and the gingerbread man.
Yeah. Okay, what did you think about the gingerbread man? Because you said you didn't like that part, right?
I hated the gingerbread man.
Why?
I saw they were trying to be like Gremlins.
We're back.
Wait, is the
It
audio?
says it's
Is
still
the video
recording, by the way.
Oh, we're still recording?
It says it's still recording.
Shit.
You're gonna have to input more. You're gonna have to put in more technical difficulty shit.
I
but
know.
It's fine. Dalton and I got this.
You guys
We're
talking
talking about
the
the
whole time?
gingerbread.
Fuck,
Yes, but we're talking about.
weird.
No, it'll be fine. We were talking about the gingerbread men, like when they first showed up.
I was saying I fucking hated them because I saw they were trying to be like Gremlins, like kind of homage, but they just, I don't know, they looked bad. They didn't.
Really? Honestly, I didn't think they looked that bad. Like even though I could tell it was CG.
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah, very 2015 like.
And it just felt like so shoehorned in to like have a Gremlins kind of like reference or homage or something.
Yeah.
What do you think, Carlos?
I thought. Yeah,
I don't know. They're hit or miss sometimes. They're very miss most times. But I mean, there were some scenes that are like, oh, they look fine. Not bothered. But for the most part, like again, when they showed up on screen, kind of like started, screaming in her face. I was like, okay, this looks like it. Definitely, you can tell it's CGI through and through. Yeah. But there was some I was like, I don't mind it. But
I was like, why? It was okay. Like everything else is practical. Like
yeah, I mean. They were definitely the least interesting out of all the monsters that were there. Even the bear looked pretty great, even though
I
stabbing the bear in the eye.
But that was practical.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
what did you like about them, Cole?
What, the gingerbread men?
Yeah.
I just thought they were like funny little guys, That's all. Like they're just funny little
rascals.
Like I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really think it. I don't feel like they were in the movie just to have something that could be comparable to Gremlins. Like it made sense why they were in the movie. It was just like, of course, Krampus would have some.
I just saw them because they were like, what were they doing? They were like shooting some kind of dart gun or something.
Oh yeah, they had a nail gun, but then they started picking up candy canes with like spiky ends and using them as knives.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just being cynical, but I'm just like, yep, here's the Gremlins scene.
It's fine.
Using like the
you're right. You're not wrong.
The household items, small things.
You're definitely not wrong. It's just that I didn't mind it personally. But it's definitely they're definitely at the bottom of the totem pole of the monsters. I really like the angel. Like the angel that would be at the top of the tree.
That was pretty cool.
I thought that was good. The robot was whatever. Like it was kind of funny. You know what I mean? Like it showed up out of nowhere.
Robot?
But that Jack in the Box, there was a little robot that started stabbing Adam Scott in the back in the attic.
I don't remember that. I think it was blanked out
pretty quickly.
Oh,
it was very quick.
Maybe that was extended.
It showed up it was in the movie, but it showed up and pretty much got blasted away pretty quickly.
That part was just like white noise to me. Like there's just like stuff happening.
It was like it was what Dalton finally wanted to see, but he was like checked out at that point. He was like, nah, this ain't working. But that Jack in the Box, it takes the cake, and the elves are cool too. Like I did like the design of the elves. It makes sense that
masks.
they are it's Trick or Treat-esque. It makes sense that they are the minions to Krampus. And what I love about Krampus's design is that without even directly showing you, you can kind of tell that like the Santa Claus with like the big gaping mouth is a mask. You can tell there's something underneath it. They show his eyes quite a bit.
I thought when Krampus first came down the chimney with the grandma, that was really cool. Like his tone. Yeah. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. And I love the fact that they make the attempt. It's not just the attempt, It's not like it was a swing and a miss in that regard, but they have like the backstory, the animated section. I love like the German expressionist art style in the background with all the buildings that are never rounded or cleanly cut.
I just feel like the exposition was kind of very gnarly jump. Where I was like, okay, we're getting exposition jump very quickly.
It was just like
it wasn't.
We had to have, or like it was just like a weird stylistic change. Like it kind of felt like checking. I don't know. This whole movie felt like checking boxes, like to fit like a subversive horror family movie. I don't know.
No, I give
that makes sense.
You feel like it's it looked up what to do and then just followed that instead of just being it.
And all the characters too. It's just like, we got to have this character. Like in Trick or Treat, I mean, I don't want to keep comparing it, but it's the same director.
No, it's okay, yeah.
And it's after Trick or Treat. So I'm just like, I don't know. Like, maybe it's because the characters didn't have that much time in Trick or Treat. Like, it was just like short things. So they didn't have, like, if it was stretched out to a long movie, like, or not a long movie, but a movie length like this, maybe it would feel the same to me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, because, I do think that for the most part, like, the family drama in the first third of the movie is pretty decent. Like, you get the idea of who these people are really well. But, like I said, after that, I feel like it's not particularly compelling in any way. And then you get to the rest of the movie, and it's like, yeah, they're still there, but at the same time, it's, like Carlos said, they do have arcs where you can definitely tell they grow and start to respect each other. And it does harken back to a point that Adam Scott says very early on in the movie when he's talking to his son about how when you are with your family for the holidays and you don't particularly want to be, it makes you try harder to earn that respect for one another and get that common ground. Mm-hmm. And I think that does end up happening, albeit I don't know that I would say it's any kind of great way, but
I was going to say, happen. I fundamentally disagree with that. And that was the moment I was like, I don't like this character. And then like he sent his daughter out to like in a fucking blizzard, really big blizzard. And like, man, I don't like any of these characters.
I didn't like that too. Frodo. They just let her die. Except Frodo.
Little Frodo, the kid.
True. Yeah.
What'd you say before I cut you off?
I was saying I didn't like that they kind of just abandoned the daughter. I felt like that would have made for more interesting because obviously they showed that they can kind of shoo it away, and they know that kind of like this underground sea shark, snow shark thing was moving. So obviously they could have made their move and tried to find the daughter, which I think it implied that she was still around or something because they heard her screaming.
I don't think that was her though. That was like the monsters. There's another point in the movie when those two girls that are like cousins to the main character, the little boy, are going up to the attic and you hear the monsters like mimicking her voice. I think it was just that because the monsters lead them into that abandoned house, her boyfriend's house. And it's abandoned. And so I thought it was like pretty clear that she was dead. It was just like weird sounds out in the open that were from the minions.
Yeah, I don't remember them mimicking. Was that in the regular cut? Do you remember that, Dalton?
Oh shit, maybe it was in the extended cut.
I don't remember that. Because I just remember footsteps up there.
Yeah, that's all I remember.
There is a point when there's that big thud and they're like, oh, it's squirrels. Like, yeah, okay, squirrels. But no, maybe that is just in the extended version then. But yeah, those two...
They thought it was too scary.
Wait, so, okay.
Maybe. Kids.
We probably should have talked about this beforehand, I guess. But all the better for discussion in the moment. When those two girls are going... Did they just not go up there in the theatrical cut?
No, they do. No, they don't.
I don't remember.
Wait, then how do you find the Jack in the Box? Because that's like right before the Jack in the Box appears.
And what do you mean? The Jack in the Box first... Oh, in the attic when they first appeared, they don't. It doesn't show them going up. They're just like, it just hears them like
being there.
It just hears them like screaming and kind of like the mom's like, hey, where are the daughters? Like they went to go take shit.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because that is what happens. Because like you see them talking to the aunt. When they're like, okay, we're going to go use the bathroom. And then they start looking around and going up there. But I honestly thought it was in the movie because Dalton said it was just people walking around in corridors. And that was like, yes, that is that. But yeah, they're peeking up into the attic after they hear sounds. And it sounds like the missing daughter's voice. And they're like, where have you been? Everyone's been like wondering, going crazy. And then that's why they're up there.
Oh, okay. I don't think I remember that. I don't think that was in the regular cut.
Yeah, the only other things that got added was like a kind of like heart-to-heart moment between Toni Collette and her sister in the movie. They get to talk about where they're at in their lives and how different they are. Yeah, but there's not a whole lot else that got added.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the arc with the sisters was pretty clear, so that makes sense why they kind of cut that. I feel like it was just extra at that point if you're just adding it.
What were you going to say, Dalton?
Something negative. I can't remember.
He's like going into the hat to pick out the next thing.
Yeah.
No, it's okay though. Like, this is something like Dalton hasn't done that many reviews with us, especially ones that we've disagreed on. So it's okay to disagree.
Yeah. I was
Carlos
gonna say,
and I disagree all the time about everything. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, for me, the characters, like, I was looking at reviews to see what the general thought was on this, and people are just like, don't think too hard about it. Like, the characters are just there to like serve a purpose. I'm like, that's kind of disrespectful to the director. Like, I think he wants you to take his work seriously, but it's just, I don't know. I just wanted something more. Like,
yeah, and that's exactly what I meant when I said it's about potential with this movie.
Just potential in everything, like dialogue. Well, except like the setting. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the monsters. But the story, the characters, the arcs, the transition between the two movies that are in this movie. Just everything.
Krampus' sleigh is really fucking cool. The demonic reindeer.
Cool. Yeah, they hit each other, caused like an earthquake.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was like, okay, that's pretty nice.
There's a lot of little details thrown in that last half that I really appreciate. Like, even when you get to that twist ending, when it reveals that Krampus kind of like captured them and put them in a snow globe. You can see like Krampus's domain, whatever you want to call it. And they put a lot of effort into that for something that could otherwise have been like such a short slot to end the movie. They put a lot of effort into that, and it's things like that. It's Michael Dougherty. You can tell it's him in that case. It's just a shame that it's the last half of the movie that feels so much like a Michael Dougherty movie as compared to the first half.
I like that final thing where all the monsters popped up, like the casting call. Like,
oh yeah. That was a boomerang sound effect.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny. Like, all the elves, they look great. It's kind of funny that they just pick up the Jack-in-the-Box and like carry him out like he's precious cargo.
Yeah. One of the other, speaking of details, I think something I would have liked to see that I really liked in Trick or Treat was the use of rules for the monster. Obviously, in Sam, the Pumpkinhead or whatever the fuck he was.
Yeah.
He had a set of rules, like for Halloween. Obviously, you had to follow. If you didn't follow, you were dead. And even when he was about to kill that old man, he kind of stabbed the candy. He left because he was really only looking for candy. So he really wasn't there to punish him. He just wasn't following the rules. In this one, it was like there was really no rules. It's like if you were set for kind of kidnapping, then you were going to be kidnapped no matter what, no matter how much your heart really changed. Because I feel like some of these characters had arcs or were seemingly supposed to receive arcs or had a big change of heart, but they still got punished. Like the son, I still have no idea why he would get punished, even though he followed all the rules. He still believed in Santa, and like it doesn't matter what you do; it's about what you believe. And he still believed, I think, but Krampus still punished him. Which I was like, okay, I mean, it makes it's not lazy, but it just like, I would have liked to see a monster that follows rules. Like, it's not just an evil being just looking to be evil, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because generally, I will say, it does feel like the only rule is like, if you were going to go by Santa's rules of being naughty or nice, then obviously everybody there is not on the nice spectrum, except for the main character, the kid. Yeah, and so it makes sense at that point why he's like wiping out the whole town. And then I honestly, though, my takeaway from it was that the only reason that the main kid was captured was because he went up to Krampus at the end. Like, otherwise, you think about the parallel to the story that the grandmother had told him about how Krampus left her alive to be able to recite the story, and how, at least to me, it felt like he was going to fulfill that role in this movie. But he went up to Krampus and then got thrown into a giant hell pit.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like it would have been much more interesting if it just like turned around and just left them, just to kind of like live in that suffering. I think that would have been a much better ending. I'm not a writer, I'm not a director, so I don't know what would work better, but I feel like
that would have been more interesting to me.
It would have been more interesting to see rather than like, okay, you're just being a dumb kid, I'm gonna throw you in the pit or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just things like that. I was like, okay, details are important in Michael Dougherty movies, and they're really important in Trick or Treat. Why aren't as important here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Who
And
knows what happened? Yeah.
I do know what you mean when you were saying how the character arcs feel weird. Like David Koechner, the guy who played the asshole in particular. I had to look up his name because I was like, yeah, he's the guy from Anchorman. But he has like a character arc where he starts respecting Adam Scott's character, but then he pulls a shotgun on him. And then immediately dies. It's like, okay, that I guess that's out the window. And so it makes sense at that point why he would die, I guess, even if he did have a change of heart. But the rest of them, yeah, it's kind of like no mercy, you know? Which could be scary in a different situation, but when you have the killer be evil Santa, it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, I was definitely on the monsters side because I hated all the human characters. But when horror movies do that, like make you on the monster side, it's not really scary because the horror is not like having characters you care about in danger and you want them to be safe. But here I'm just like, yes, please go out and die.
And I see where people are coming from when they say that they think this movie is fun. I think there are moments that are fun, but overall this movie is kind of weird. That first half I would not say is fun necessarily. Like I think I don't know. It's focusing too much on like how bad of a human being everybody in that house really is, with good moments here and there of each of them. And I don't hate the characters, but I get where you're coming from. You ready to wrap it up? You have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, no, I mean that covers everything I had.
Me too.
Cool. All right, so let's jump to ratings. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Si, senor.
All right, folks. Here's the deal. I've seen this before. I had this set on Letterboxd at a 7 out of 10. I don't feel that strongly about that score. Watching it now, I would definitely say it's a good movie overall. I like it. I would watch it again. You know, it's definitely a seasonal thing, though. Like, you wouldn't catch me watching this like I would something like Black Christmas, where that's like a fantastic movie that's set during Christmas time that you could watch at any given point because it's just a damn good slasher. It's no Silent Night, Deadly Night, Christmas Evil. You take your pick. But it is good. It is good, and I would recommend it. I think I'd go like 6.5. You know, I went down to 3 stars on Letterboxd, but like it's like right in between there. I don't think it definitely isn't great. I think it has amazing moments, but it's just not as cohesive as I would like it to be. And like I said, that's not coming from a place of, I wish this was Trick or Treat. It's just like the movie that it is could be so much better. But I still enjoy it. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I'll give it, same score, 6 or not same score. I'm going to give it a 6. I think it's closer to a 5. I think it's closer to being more of an average movie, but I think for the most part, if you enjoy like creature features, I think this is a fun watch. I mean, it didn't feel too terribly long, which is always great. And I wasn't really bored throughout. It does slow down, but again, it was like just watching another Christmas movie. I think with it being accessible, I would definitely highly recommend for anybody just out of curiosity to go watch it. I think Michael Daugherty, has a stamp in here, which is cool to see, but I think there was a lot of probably like studio interference where they're like, we want this kind of movie, we don't want anything too crazy because we want a PG-13 rating. So obviously he had to abide to that, and it really does suffer in some ways for that. But you know, I think it's fine. It's a fine movie. It's not bad in any, or it's bad in some ways, but it's,
I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's better than average. So yeah, 6 out of 10, closer to a 5. But yeah,
it's no Halloween, right. No Godzilla King of the Monsters.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, for me, it started off as an 8 out of 10, like with the first third, because I was like, I could see the potential and see where this could go and all the cool stuff that could happen. And I love the Christmas aesthetic, especially the outdoor shots. It looks really cool with all the blue.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, I was like, okay, maybe this is like an average for me. And then it went on even further. I was like, I don't like it. Me no like it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's going to be slightly less than average at a 3 out of 10, with 5 being average. So yeah.
Yeah.
Not
that's
for
okay.
me. But I'd still recommend it to anyone listening, just because like it has mass audience appeal. So,
Oh yeah,
if you're not too picky, you'll probably like it.
yeah.
I mean, a guy like me prefers to have a movie stick to its guns and not be so broadly appealing. But it's a Michael Dougherty movie, you know, that you can tell, like Carlos said, what he brings to this movie goes a long way. So that's nice to see. But yeah, that'll do it for us. Thank you all for listening. If you've been watching us on YouTube, thank you. Please do comments, you know, even if it's on Instagram, you can send us message. Please! But yes, please do. We're trying to figure out what movies you all want us to see, so leave us some recommendations. You know, we talk back, not badly, unless it's Carlos, Persona 5 fanatic Carlos. But the thing is that...
What?
Carlos always says he looks like Joker.
That is true. Thank you. I wasn't brave enough to say it.
Those were never my words.
Anyways,
I never said that.
Anyways,
hey, we should put like the suggested movies in like a randomizer. And, like,
that would be a good idea.
One.
But you guys got to give us movies, so please do recommend us movies. You can send us a fat ass list, and we'll just say no. But at least we'll see it. You know, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We take your suggestions to heart. But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Okay, here, Dalton, why don't you give the viewers a little nudge as to what we're watching next?
We're watching Eyes Wide Shut, a Christmas classic.
Yes,
it's got Christmas lights in it.
Directed by Mr. Christmas lights, himself.
And it takes place during Christmas, even though it's about like naughty stuff. You won't get presents from Santa if you watch this. Just saying.
What am I watching?
Yeah, all right. Look, the way that I can describe Eyes Wide Shut is somebody who's never seen it is with really a simple analogy, and that's a question. It's not even an analogy. It's why is Santa's sack so big? And it's a rhetorical question too, because the answer is he only comes once a year. And I guess with that, stay tuned for Eyes Wide Shut.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, with that.
What can I say?
Oh, hey. I thought we ended. Wait, I had one question for you guys before we end.
Okay. What is it?
Have you guys been naughty or nice?
I think I know when to be naughty.
And I know when to be nice.
It's like the Twix, like left and right.
Yeah.
All right.
And when you get us in the same room,
magic.
I don't even have. I don't have a follow up to that. I'll let your imagination do the rest.
Magic Mike is coming back to theaters, guys. Get excited. With that, we'll finish. Anyways, good to see everybody again, and till next time. Aye.